appetizers. Okay, all right.
Real quick question. I'm from Wisconsin, where in Milwaukee they just had a big fight even before the governor's budget about mayoral takeover. It just totally fragmented the whole community. It was being driven at the time by the Democratic mayor and the Democratic governor, and some people think that's why the Republican governor won. What do you feel about the mayoral takeover in, Chicago? It's been 16 years or thereabouts. Isn't that a part of the issue that for so long the mayor's been calling the shots? What do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, I think the big problem is that it speaks for itself. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, the school system is a problem, blah, 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 but you've been in control of it. Right. So the fact is, we really need to look at what reform means. And right now, it doesn't mean much. It means it has very little to do with education. It has very little to do with children. Okay? And I think what's interesting to me is that is the mantra that most reformers have. But the problem is, it would be great to take the politics out of education, because I think the real problem is it's not about Democrats or Republicans. Because quite frankly, when it comes to education, I don't see a lot of difference. It's like we have one party, and it's the party of green, which the party of money, and there are two branches of it. So the fact is, education and public education is actually the last bastion of real democracy left. And I'm going to go down swinging on this one. I have to say, this whole idea of performance pay, I will never agree to that, because it is so ripe for corruption. And the fact is, we've already started to see that creep in with the test cheating scandals. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. I don't think that's where we need to focus and set that for our kids to look at. So I think the problem with any kind of top-down control, if it's autocratic and people don't feel like they have a part of it, then they disengage anyway. So, my real concern is that there's so many other ways to do this. And to talk about flexibility, I think, is important. But whenever we talk about flexibility, it's always to hurt someone else, and for somebody else to gain. So what I would like to see is a much more collaborative process, because when people are invested in the decision making and the power making and the power positions, then the outcomes are so much better, because they're involved in the very beginning of how that process works. And in schools where you see very high functioning kids that are in this so-called flexible thing, you have a real high decision making process with parents and communities and teachers.
Thank you for this on-the-spot interview. We'll certainly have another conversation in the future.
You know where to find me.
Yes, I do.